Before this video starts, I just want to say a few things. Firstly, this video is going to be quite different from the other deep dives and documentaries about lolcows and internet predators that I've made in the past. To make a deep dive, there has to be a lot to sink my teeth into, and whilst this brief story is quite interesting, it's not really on the same level as a Nick Bait or a Kiro the Wolf. Which is why I've decided to make this video a more audio-focused retrospective look into the man we're talking about today, as opposed to a visual-focused documentary. And because I started playing Far Cry 4 again recently, I decided to mess around in the game and use that to provide the visual element, although this video is pretty much perfect if you just want something to listen to while you fold the washing, do the dishes, or evade paying your taxes. And on a brief side note, I'm really happy with how my channel has been growing over the past few months. Back when I was uploading weekly, I enjoyed a decent amount of growth and I really enjoyed making those videos week after week. Hopefully at some point I can return to that schedule, but at this point it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. But I do have quite a few things in the pipeline that I'm working on that I can hopefully release in the next few months at the very least. With that all out of the way, let's begin the video. From its inception, TikTok is a platform that has been heavily scrutinized for its lackluster child safety guidelines and its failure to protect its massive younger user base. For a platform that most people use predominantly to record themselves in the moment, with its incredibly easy to use video making tools, it was inevitable that the platform would become massive with a younger audience. In the same way that YouTube and even TikTok's predecessors, Musical.ly and Vine, would later find themselves marred in controversy, it would only be a matter of time before an expose saw one of its biggest creators being exposed as a creep. Which brings us to the topic of today's video, that being the brief story of Buddy Haynes, aka the BUDDAY, aka the man in the very unenviable position of being considered TikTok's first prominent predator. And I say the first prominent predator because I highly doubt that he was the very first, but he also happened to be the first with any level of notoriety on the platform to be exposed. He would begin his TikTok journey in 2018, when he created an account on the platform under the name The BUDDAY. While the details about him were scarce at the time, he did reveal that he was 26 when he first opened the account. His early content focused mainly on his inability to dance, as he would film himself flailing his arms and legs about, with very little in the way of choreography involved. And while the videos were definitely weird, most people saw them as nothing more than slightly cringe or completely innocuous at first. However, perhaps realising that you can't really sustain an audience for very long by simply demonstrating your inability to do something, he would decide to jump on a different style of content. A style of content that no one would expect, especially from someone like him. Yeah, he wanted to become a fucking e-boy. For those of you who don't know, e-boys and e-girls are usually very popular online personalities who get paid a lot of money to do not much of anything, shill products, and not have the foresight to know how fucked they'll be by whatever company owns their souls through the influencer contracts. In effect, they are the quintessential example of what an influencer is to people who don't know what influencers are. The kind of people who are just successful for the sake of it, and the BUDDAY wanted a piece of that pie. Of course, there are some prerequisites to becoming an e-boy, such as being able to follow basic instructions, being able to dance for 60 seconds at most, and finally, and this is the most important part, those other two, they're choices, but this last one, most important. You gotta be attractive. Now, we've already established that Buddy Haynes can't dance like Jason Derulo. We haven't got up to that point yet, but he had trouble understanding why trying to fuck kids is wrong, so he can't follow basic instructions, and he has the physique of Humpty Dumpty and the face of dumb round eyes Bobby Lee. But if the many sexually charged conversations with underage kids in his future proves anything, it's that the BUDDAY wasn't going to be put off by societal norms anytime soon. Instead of aiming for the stereotypical e-boy market and failing, he took an interest in the e-boy's long-distant cousin, the fuckboy, choosing to portray himself as a hardcore sex god in a series of provocative TikToks. Wrapping his belt around his hand, dressing in all black, and simulating cunnilingus with thin air, the BUDDAY would become a TikTok bad boy that would put any girl at risk of wetting herself on the spot. Despite how stupid this whole thing really was, he ended up actually cultivating a decent audience, bigger than the one that he had previously from this move. Not because anyone actually wanted to fuck this Juju beanhead, but because he had effectively been able to capture the same audience he'd already captured with his prior dancing clips. They were stupid and even somewhat cringe, which is why people stuck around. But these sex god clips exasperated all of the value from his older stuff because of how retarded and cringeworthy they really were. Along with the uptake in new viewers, he'd also become the focus of many YouTube videos, making fun of his newer antics, which gave him even more of a boost in internet stock points. And while most saw these clips as completely harmless, with these videos only really being dangerous if you had a heart condition that was receptive to cringe, some YouTubers and users commented on how strange of a feeling they got from not only the videos themselves, but from Buddy specifically. That is perfect foreshadowing for us to move on with, and I want you to keep those statements in mind as we continue because, well, it turned out they had a right to feel weird and strange and icky about this guy. While he did end up gaining substantial numbers over the course of the few months that he'd become the focal point online, he never really became the biggest TikTok star, and always bubbled underneath the medium-sized creator range. Despite this, there was still enough of a focus on him for the community to begin noticing a trend that his content had begun to follow. That being his frequent duets with girls that looked to be underage. Duets are a feature in TikTok that effectively allow random users to upload video responses to already existing videos, and then have them display directly next to the video that is being responded to. What the Buddy was doing was seemingly finding all of the little girls he could duet with, making faces and ogling at them through his phone, which led to him receiving substantial enough backlash that he had to actually produce a response video to these criticisms. I'm not going to play the video for you here, but in it he effectively says something along the lines of,
I really love my fans, but I need to say a little something to my haters, man. I need to let them a little something to my haters, man. Y'all just hating. Y'all just hating. You make this worse on yourself. Y'all just all hating, man, for no reason. I ain't no pedo. I ain't no pedo fork. You all hating. Hating for no reason. Stop hating. Hating bad. Leave your PhD at the door. That be your player haters degree, man. I don't know what to say, y'all, man. Go. Yeah.
I don't know why I made him sound like a wigger, but wigger Christian, I suppose. Anyway, while he would continue down his previous path for a while despite the hate, he would soon make another response video, this time due to the fact that some internet users had managed to find some of his personal information and had begun trying to contact him through Facebook and other private accounts. In this response video, he said something along the lines of,
Hey man, I'm still here. I'm still here on this damn TikTok page in my damn household, but I got a little something I need to say. So, some people have been finding my private and personal information on my Facebook pages. And let me tell you something, I do not appreciate it. If you keep going like this, I will contact the police. I will give the police a call, and I will give them your personal info and details. You know what I'm saying? I'll send in police, I'll send in detectives, I'll send in everything in my power, okay? So get my Facebook page out your goddamn heads, or I will put a Ruger 1.1 in your mouth and send a bullet in your head. You feel me?
This video, however, would be the last justifiable call to action that Buddy would have. as soon after, a group of TikTok users would drop a bombshell of information about the BUDDAY's unsavory actions behind the scenes. A TikTok content creator by the name of BitHoji released a video claiming that at the time at least, the BUDDAY was allegedly messaging young girls over platforms like Snapchat and Instagram, with the messages also being accompanied with indecent and inappropriate videos and images, finishing the video off by claiming that many people had already called him out for these actions in the past, and that the police had been notified and would now be getting involved. At the time, BitHoji didn't really provide any evidence to corroborate the claims made in this clip, but the way that she went about this situation and the way that she revealed the info was done in a way that didn't serve to over-dramatise the situation, which personally made me feel at the time like she was a trustworthy source. And in a lot of cases, people on TikTok do tend to over-dramatise situations in order to reap the benefits of everyone knowing what's going on at that time and the benefit of their career, which is something that I don't think BitHoji did very often, which is why I personally felt at that time that these were true statements. This video was initially the catalyst for people looking deeper into the potential predatory actions that could have been taking place behind the scenes, courtesy of the BUDDAY. But of course, sooner rather than later, it would be revealed that this man that has the voice of Chris Chan, the body and face of Wings of Redemption, and the tactical acumen of the average to catch a predator captured in a sting, it would be revealed that, to the shock of absolutely no one, he was indeed guilty of what he was accused of. Sooner rather than later, the evidence would become public, as creators would begin making videos about the topic, most of whom didn't seem to be all that shocked at the revelation that someone like Buddy Haynes was a predator. In the messages, Buddy acknowledges multiple times the ages of the girls, and even in one case sent one of them some money through PayPal. In some other cases, Buddy asked some of the girls for pictures. At first he proposed relatively reserved pictures, things like blowing kisses and nothing featuring nudity that didn't initially replicate any illegal content, but in the context of internet predators and being someone who has done a lot of research and documentation on these kinds of people, it's pretty obvious that when someone asks for something like this, it's an attempt to groom the girls, make them manipulate them into believing that sending images like this is a normal thing, and later on whenever you ask for a different kind of image, it's cool because they've already done this much stuff. YouTube content creator Jay Aubrey would get in contact with some of the girls involved after they experienced the BUDDAY's wrath, and would get a hold of even more screenshots that weren't originally public, giving us even more evidence against Buddy Haynes. Jay Aubrey is an absolute beast when it comes to getting this information. He got more than we could ever hope for, and it really helped just solidify the fact that the BUDDAY's career was fucked. Or at least that's what we thought. Ironically, BitHoji, the catalyst behind the entirety of this investigation and this media backlash taking place, actually turned out to be a bit of a bit player in this entire story, and would only have to return once more to clear her name, because, in Buddy's words, she wasn't fully innocent herself, as during this time, while being hit from all angles with controversy, the BUDDAY concocted the excuse that BitHoji, the kind Samaritan who had just wanted to evacuate all of the perverts and pedophiles from the TikTok community, had actually hacked his social medias in order to defame him by orchestrating this whole situation. I am not kidding, that is legitimately something he tried to say was legit. Not to mention the fact that not only would she had to have hacked his entire social medias, but also his PayPal account, because he sent one of the victims money. But that's besides the point. No one believed this, obviously. Ironically, and quite funny enough, BitHoji actually had to release a statement about the situation, reaffirming the fact that she is indeed not fucking Daniel Keem. Thank fuck. Soon after this fallout had taken place, Buddy would remove his comments section and then fully deactivate his account, leaving an empty shell where Buddy's small but respectable fanbase used to be. This full-scale removal of not only his content, but his entire profile led many to theorise that he'd either been blacklisted completely from the platform, or even arrested. Now, I never believed he was arrested at that point in time specifically, because in my experience documenting these kinds of people online, due mainly to how outdated many of the current cybercrime laws actually still are, in most occasions, what Buddy did was definitely fucked, and he was right to be completely expedited off the platform, but in most cases, these situations very rarely ever result in an arrest this early on. I mean, EDP legitimately showed up to a sting operation in hopes of fucking a young girl, and he was allowed to roam the streets for over 2 years. I mean, of course, Buddy didn't show up. Or, well, that's what you may think now, but you just wait. While many people thought that this was the end of the Budday's career, he would later return in a completely unexpected way, with a video claiming that he had not been arrested and was instead just taking some time to cool down after the controversy that had engulfed his career in the previous months. While no one expected this kind of return, and many people were instantly put off by the ego-driven approach to his return, most were just surprised that he was willing to return to the very platform that had previously branded him a creep so soon. Buddy would claim that the main motivations for his return was that he knew it would majorly piss off every single one of his haters. And while he was technically right, this perfectly encapsulates the statement, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. For a while, things would remain the same. The Budday would be exposed multiple times for chatting with users on platforms like Snapchat who he thought were underage in very unsavoury ways. And while these kinds of situations had put him in hot water before, and were still being taken just as seriously as they were before, the Budday seemingly put these issues in the pay no mind category, as he continued making content and barely being able to hold on to his dwindling internet fame. However, what happened next would be impossible to ignore, not only for his detractors, but for the first time in this entire story, for Buddy himself. YouTuber activist Plug would spend a total of 3 months playing the role of a decoy in an intended sting operation, in which he hoped to catch the Budday in the act. And that he did. During the chat, he had managed to convince Buddy that he was actually a 17-year-old girl who was a long-time fan. Buddy admittedly managed to keep this conversation clean, maybe due to learning his lesson after his previous actions. Despite being caught many times for his gross conduct around kids, Buddy was actually quite intent on meeting who he thought was a 17-year-old girl. Buddy had agreed to meet the girl by 6 in some fucking park somewhere, but instead of a 17-year-old walking over to him, activist Plug would approach and film the whole interaction. Buddy had yet again been caught, this time in such a way that even he couldn't sweep this under the rug. Buddy would effectively fall off the face of the earth after this, disappearing from TikTok and leaving nothing but inactive accounts all over the net. He would briefly reappear in some unlikely places, however, as he would begin streaming games like Fortnite to Twitch, and would even begin rapping on SoundCloud under the name Papa Freak. As a brief side note, if I can find any of Buddy's old rap songs, I'd absolutely love to make another video in the same style as the one I made on the music of Nick Bate. If you want to see that, stick around, because if I can find those clips, I'd love to make a video like that. After most likely realising that he was destined to be remembered online as the first TikTok creep, and that his small audience was most likely going to consist fully of haters from his previous years, he finally chose to cut his losses and nuked his entire internet footprint, leaving only few remnants of his existence in the process. That was until over nearly a year and a half later, he inexplicably created a new YouTube channel called Papa Freak, on which he would upload a video documenting his side of the story. In this video, he seems way more self-aware than many people would have believed him to be, but in a lot of cases it's really hard to tell if this is actually what he's like in real life, or if he believed this was the best way to portray himself in this video. While he does go into detail about his content, the real meat of the video was spent talking about his demons at the time, claiming that he had been abusing alcohol, he had been neglecting his own self-care, as well as not taking his medicine, and was also struggling with his mental health. Specifically, he would mention the fact that he would make videos and uphold his internet career during points in his everyday life where he was not in the correct state of mind to do so. Now, I'm gonna sound like a bit of an asshole right now, but I personally hate the, or I was in a bad place, I was depressed, I had a mental breakdown, I have mental issues excuses. Because as someone who's been on the internet for a very long time, it's one of the most overused excuses in the game. Everyone at some point in their lives is going to have at least one period where their mental state is not going to be very good, where their state of mind is in the gutter, and they feel like their life is fucked beyond disrepute. But most people don't use that as an excuse to break the law, because a majority of people don't break the law. Do I think that Buddy did have issues in the past? I don't believe it, I know it as a fact. Of course he did. I mean, he made videos acting like the CEO of sex. You have to be pretty fucked in the head to do that when you look like Wings of Redemption. But at this point, statements like this in apology videos are about as legit to me as Chris Chan blaming his failures on autism. Not very legit at all. Of course, I do genuinely think Buddy is talking from the heart here. This really isn't an issue with Buddy's apology as much as it is a problem with every single other predator using it as pretty much the only reason to justify doing what they did. So even if Buddy did have these problems, it automatically makes it look like he's coming off as disingenuous, simply because it's such a cliche at this point. I mean, Kiro the fucking wolf used it as a justification for raping dead corpses. So the BUDDAY using it for messaging underage girls and having some pretty bad conduct, it might not necessarily seem like as bad of a problem, but it still makes his apology seem less legit just by proxy of it being here. But where the video ends is the most important part. Buddy states that he's genuinely trying to get his life back on track, claiming that he is focusing more on his health and taking his prescriptions again. He also claims in this video to have completely stopped drinking, and in short, seems to have tried to do everything he could to remove every vice he had previously from his life, including TikTok. And that's where the story gets really strange. Buddy Haynes is, in my opinion, very similar to Mad Thad in a way. While they were both caught doing bad things and having their reputation automatically associated with child exploitation, they've both seemingly been able to move on from those times in their lives. While I don't fully buy that Buddy Haynes is as innocent as he tries to portray himself in this video, I don't at least believe for now that even if he can't rebuild an online career, he may be able to get to a point where he can see himself as a different person to what he was back then. Which of course leads us to the same question that pretty much all of these stories lead us to. Should Buddy Haynes be given a second chance? Should we apologise, or should we accept his apology for what he did? Again, just like with every other video I've ever made, I really don't know personally, and it's all up to the people watching at home. Buddy Haynes did bad things. It didn't go as far as it could have gone, thank God, but it was still bad what he did, and the TikTok community has a right to exfiltrate anyone who perpetrates bad actions against the younger audience. There's absolutely no question about that fact. And honestly, even though he did bad things, I don't personally think Buddy Haynes would have ever really been a danger to anyone. Sure, he did intend to meet a 17-year-old girl, but honestly, most 17-year-old girls are tall enough that they could probably take Buddy Haynes with one hand tied behind their back. It's the implication of the actions that really killed his future on TikTok and his career. Do I think Buddy Haynes is the worst TikTok predator? No. Do I think he was the first? No. Do I believe he should be given a second chance? Well, I don't believe he should be given a second chance, especially online. It's obvious that for a lot of people, internet fame is simply not something that they can deal with. It isn't something that works with their mentality. And if I believe that if Buddy was to attempt to make a comeback to TikTok or gain any significant audience again, he'd probably just fall down the exact same rabbit hole he previously did, and we'd be back at square one, which definitely would not be good for him, and would not be good for anyone else. I believe that the changes Buddy claims to have made in his life were the best choice for him. So while I don't believe he should come back to the internet or have a second chance, I do at the very least, wish him luck in his future. If you can genuinely rehabilitate yourself and get the help that you need, you at least deserve an ounce of respect, even if what you did previously was bad. And that's the opinion I hold for Mad Thad as well. Even if Mad Thad's actions were arguably worse than Buddy's, that's the opinion I also hold for him as well. Well, you don't deserve a second chance on the internet, and actively it's probably the best for you to stay as far the fuck away from it as possible. At least you are actually making the effort to right your wrongs and see where what you did was wrong. So that was my brief look at the story of the first prominent TikTok predator. I know the video was a bit different to the usual content that I make, and I'm hoping to get back into making other videos too. I actually had a lot of fun making this. So if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment. Yo, subscribe, guys! Subscribe to the video! If you haven't heard, join my free gift card giveaway. I'm giving out V-Bucks, I'm giving out Robux, I'm giving out